Shalom, shalom. With today's worldly events and the madness that we seem to be surrounded in, I thought an appropriate study for today would be the generational curses. We are in the end times, and these are the days of Noah. And these demonic forces are going to be showing themselves because their time is short. And we see these demons running rampant and indwelling in families where these curses have been placed for generations. Deuteronomy 5:6 tells us, I am JAHUAH thy Elohah, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. JAHUAH is our only way out of this bondage. We need to follow the ways of the covenant and teach our children the ways of the covenant if we want to break these generational curses. My family had a problem with alcoholism for generations, and we have strived to try to break that curse. And following in the ways of our Father and His Son, that is the only way that we can be healed as a family, as a race, and as a generation from these curses. Because Satan is always looking for just the right opportunity to place us in bondage. He finds moments to intrude into our lives, and he takes every advantage that he can. Sometimes he uses an open door into our homes and lives. It may be an attitude, an object, or a relationship. It doesn't matter. Any door will do. It's through temptation and deception that Satan attempts to influence us to fall under JAHUAH's curse. If you claim to be a believer, a true believer, what is in their heart is to follow the covenant that JAHUAH made with Abraham. We want the Abrahamic blessings. And so if we claim to be JAHUAH's, that is what is expected of us, to follow the covenant. We can't claim to be His if we're not following His covenant. That's what He expects of us, to say we're His. If you are a believer, you follow JAHUAH's covenant. And in not doing so, He places curses upon you. And Satan looks for these breaches when we're not following JAHUAH's covenant to come into our lives. I mean, look at what Satan did to Adam and Eve. They were lured into a lie, and they ended up believing Satan's word, Lucifer's word, against JAHUAH. A lot of people think there's gray areas in life. There isn't. There's black and there's white. There's JAHUAH or there's His enemy. We believe in our Creator and His Son, or it's the enemy. That's all we are offered in this life. So if you're under the delusion that you can walk in some gray area, you are under the curse. So looking at what Satan did to Adam and Eve, they were lured into a lie and they ended up believing him. When they took the lie and committed the original sin, JAHUAH, not Satan, cursed them. No, Satan, he was quite happy with himself. He did his job, and I mean, if he was working on commission, he probably got a big fat paycheck for that one. Satan did his job in facilitating a situation that would cause JAHUAH to bring a curse on Adam and Eve. That's his job, to place us in situations and test us. Are we going to be faithful, or are we going to follow our flesh? Satan's success depends on two things: darkness and ignorance. Our defense against him and against ignorance is therefore in acquiring the appropriate knowledge. The most important way of acquiring the needed knowledge is in asking JAHUAH to reveal his truths in the areas where we are ignorant. All we have to do is ask, and he will deliver. And that's what he tells us. Knock and you shall find. We ask him to give us light so that we do not stumble in darkness or in ignorance. The Torah clearly says that JAHUAH put generational curses on Adam and Chava, or Eve. Chava, that's her Hebrew name, for disobeying the direct command not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And these curses bring pain and suffering into our lives. This still holds true today. Curses exist and are very real even in this day and age. And even more so are they ever being revealed. They are the invisible blocks to healing, deliverance, or salvation. Let me say that again. Curses are the invisible blocks to healing, to deliverance, and to salvation. And these curses have been passed on to generation after generation, or offspring after offspring. Joshua 7:12. And the sons of Israel could not stand before their enemies. They will turn their backs before their enemies because they have become cursed. I will not be with you again unless you destroy the one who is cursed from among you. So JAHUAH is telling them that because you have cursed among you, I'm not going to stand with you at all. I'm not going to stand with your people. So you have to remove the cursed if you want to continue receiving the blessings. Today we live in a society where destroying the cursed really, is not an option in the biblical sense. But if we want the ruach of our Creator to be with us, we certainly must remove someone who is cursed from our lives. We simply stop associating with those who prevent us from being in the presence of our Creator, and thus harming our children to the third and fourth generation. I had someone the other day ask me, why does our Creator allow the children to suffer? And at the time, I was kind of taken back by the question, and I didn't know what to say. And my only answer could be was that, I don't know the mind of JAHUAH, and he has his reasons for doing things. And that question, laid heavy on my mind. And I was coming before JAHUAH in prayer and asking him, why, JAHUAH? Why do you allow the children to be hurt and suffer and all these atrocities? They're coming to the forefront today with the child trafficking, and it's crazy the things that JAHUAH is bringing to our face right now. And he said to me, I could hear him. I was out in my garden, and it was quiet, and that's when I talk to JAHUAH the most. And I hear his sweet, soft, gentle voice speaking to me, and he said, because the parents were supposed to love their children, and if their children are in jeopardy, they would walk. my covenant. If they thought their children would be harmed, they would walk my covenant and nurture them and teach them and show them my way. And if they don't, the curses go upon their children because the parents aren't doing what the parents are supposed to be doing. So it's on the parents. And we affect what happens to our children and our grandchildren. And even to the fourth generation, our great-grandchildren can feel the effects of the decisions we make this very day. Numbers 14:18. The Creator is long-suffering and of great mercy, forgiving iniquity and transgression, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. So it's not like we haven't been given a warning. We can't say we didn't know. And ignorance is not an excuse in the eyes of the Creator. Paul speaks of a curse upon all those who preach another gospel, starting with Galatians 1 verse 8. But though ye or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. As we said before, so I say again, if any man preached any other gospel unto you other than what we have received, let him be accursed. A curse is the opposite of a blessing, whereas a blessing is a pronouncement of sanctification because one is initiated into JAHUAH's plan, whereas a curse is a pronouncement of defilement because one opposes JAHUAH's plan. JAHUAH may curse a person or a whole nation because of their opposition to adhering to his covenant. Just as all of creation is under JAHUAH's curse or bondage from having fallen due to the original sin of Adam and Chava. Romans 5:12. Therefore, even as through one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed on all men, inasmuch all has sinned. So Adam brought death upon mankind. That's how we are partakers of the original sin, as our lives, our earthly lives, will come to an end. But saying that a curse is just the opposite of a blessing is too simple and would make some to easily label anything bad as a curse. Even persecution, trials of faith, every sickness, every failure, every accident, every type of poverty, carrying the spiritual cross, and so on would be labeled curses. Now we can define a curse in its context outside the original sin as any undesirable matter that emerges from an utterance, statement, pronouncement, invocation, oral or written, vocabulary that expresses will ill or misfortune to an individual, animal, or object. Not all unpleasant or undesirable matters are the result of a curse. So if something bad happens and you've been walking with JAHUAH, don't necessarily assume that you are being cursed. A curse is only a part of various categories of unpleasant and undesirable matters. These other categories of unpleasant and undesirable matters have their own descriptions. They include, like I said, trials of faith, thorns in the flesh, the cross, persecution, storms, and so on. Job was a good example of that. JAHUAH set before us the blessings and the curses and tells us to choose. He lays it all out there for us. There's nothing hidden. He's saying, if you want to be mine, I will give you these blessings. If you don't, then I'm going to give these curses upon you. And so choose which way you'd rather live, blessed or cursed. And we are told if we obey all of his covenant commands, that thousands will be blessed. Thousands of our generations. The blessings go on. And that if we are disobedient, he will be avenged with his curse to the 4th generation. So we're affecting our families either way. So how much love do we have for our future generations in the way we want to influence their lives through blessings or curses? The Creator is basically testing our love for our children. They are the incentive to follow the covenant. And sadly, there's many parents out there who just don't care. If you hate JAHUAH, he considers you his enemy. And if you're his enemy, why would he bless you? If you're not walking in his ways, you're telling him, I don't love you. I hate you. It's not about doing good works to get to heaven. It's about doing your works to be obedient in fearful respect out of what our Creator has asked of us. He's asked us to do this. So when we obey, we are receiving these blessings throughout our generations. Deuteronomy 28, starting with verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you if you will listen to the voice of JAHUAH your Eloah. There'll be so many blessings, they will overtake you. You shall be blessed in the city and be blessed in the field. No matter where we live, we will be blessed. The fruit of your body shall be blessed. The fruit of your ground and the fruit of your cattle. The increase of your cows and the flocks of your sheep. So he's telling us the fruits of our labor will be blessed. Your basket and your store shall be blessed. So we will have plenty of food. Our provisions will be taken care of. We won't need to worry because JAHUAH will bless us with plenty. You shall be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. So we are always under the blessing. JAHUAH shall cause your enemies that rise up against you to be stricken before your face. They shall come out against you one way and flee before you 7 ways. JAHUAH will protect us. And we're not supposed to be joyful over the fall of our enemies. But it is reassuring to know, and I've seen it happen. I've seen where I've been attacked personally in a spiritual matter where those that have come up against me have immediately been stricken with illness or some kind of diversity coming into their lives. And it was like immediately JAHUAH slapped them down. And it's really kind of sad to watch that happen. But he says he will take care of our enemies and they will flee from us. But they will be stricken. We will see it happen. We will know that it's JAHUAH that is behind it. And this is one of his blessings. JAHUAH shall command the blessing on you in your storehouses and all that you set your hand to do. And he shall bless you in the land which JAHUAH your Eloah gives you. Again, he will give us abundance, all that we need. JAHUAH shall establish you a holy people to himself. as he sworn to you, if you shall keep the commandments of JAHUAH your Eloah and walk in his ways. So we will be one with our Creator. We will be in his inner sanctum and be one with him. Okay, verse 10. And all the peoples of the earth shall see that you are called by the name of JAHUAH, and they shall be afraid of you. So those that are blessed will have the power of JAHUAH and the power of his name, of his Shem. There's power in his name and there's power in his blessings. And he's saying that the people around you will see that you are blessed. And that reminds me of a story. I mean, yes, I feel like I'm blessed. I'm not rich by any means in the worldly sense. My house is falling apart and we're struggling to put it back together, and we've been struggling with health issues for some years, and JAHUAH has blessed us and has cured us and has brought us into so much understanding. But I had a gentleman the other day in my establishment, and he had shopped in there a few times before, and I'm not in there very often working. I work mostly from home, and my husband had chatted with him a few times. But anyway, I was in there, and the gentleman comes up and he introduced himself and told me he had met my husband, Kaifa. And he's like, he asked me straight out, what makes you and your husband like you are? And I thought it was kind of an odd question. And I said, how are we? I mean, to me, I guess we do seem different to the world because we close our business on the Sabbath that we follow, and we walk not with the world. But I didn't know what he meant. I mean, I'm dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, and I don't have a head covering on, and I'm in there all sweaty and dirty. And he's like, what makes you the way you are? And I said, well, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean, sir. And he says, there's a spirit around you, the both of you. There's just this spirit and this peace. Why? Where's this peace coming from that I feel coming off of you? And I was really kind of shocked that he said that. And it was a blessing to my heart that he had noticed. And I said, sir, I can only attribute that to the Ruach HaKodesh. That's the Holy Spirit of our Creator. And I follow his ways, and he blesses me with that spirit. And it touched me that he could see that spirit on me, and that the blessings was there. And JAHUAH tells us that those people will see it. They will see the spirit of the blessings upon us. And that was a witness to me that he is telling the truth, that when he says he's going to do something, that's what he's going to do. And he says, JAHUAH shall open to you his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain to your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand. And you shall loan to many nations, and shall not borrow. So we are given his light and his truth, and we are to lend that. We're to give that out to the nations, his light and his truth. But we're not to take in their darkness. We're not to borrow their ways. We're to take his good treasures. And he brings the rain. Rain not only to nourish our land and our crops, but the latter rains of knowledge that come down and nourish our spirits. Verse 13, and JAHUAH shall make you the head and not the tail, and you shall be always above and not beneath. If, now see, he always throws that big if in there, and we kind of skim over that part. If you listen to the commandments of JAHUAH your Elohim, which I command you today to observe and to do them. Now on to verse 15. So we're Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. And the not so fun stuff. And it shall be, if you will not listen to the voice of JAHUAH your Eloah, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command today, all these curses shall come on you and overtake you. So not only do the blessings overtake you, the curses will overtake you. I personally don't want to be overtaken by curses. You shall be cursed in the city and cursed in the field. So we won't be able to escape it no matter where we go. We can't run from it. Your basket and your store shall be cursed. Famine. You won't have the food that you need. Look at the stores today. Even now it's August, so we're 8 months into this pandemic, and still supplies are hard to come by, and some things are almost impossible to come by at this point. I'm trying to find canning goods right now, canning supplies. Good luck there, ladies. The fruit of your body shall be cursed, and the fruit of your land, the increase of your cows and the flock of your sheep. Disease and pestilence will be brought upon us. Ha! Well, we just happen to be in the middle of a pandemic, and did you see the reports of the locusts in Africa? It's running rampant every day in the news. I'm almost afraid. What's the joke going on Facebook and social media? Welcome to the year of Jumanji. You know, what's the next month going to bring? Disease and pestilence. You think that we're under a curse? You shall be cursed when you come in and when you go out. Always cursed. Verse 20, JAHUAH shall send you cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that you set your hand to do, until you are destroyed and until you perish quickly, because of the wickedness of your doings by which you have forsaken me. So he's going to cause confusion and destruction to happen. JAHUAH shall make the plague cling to you until he has consumed you from off the land where you go to possess it. Again, illness and death. JAHUAH shall strike you with lung disease and with a fever. People, I can't make this up. We're living in these prophetic times, okay? He's telling us, he's cursing us. Lung disease and with a fever and with an inflammation and with extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue you until you perish. And your heavens over your head shall be bronze, and the earth that is under you iron. So no spiritual or physical nourishment. And the heavens over you shall be bronze. I live in the West, and there's a lot of fires going on right now, and the sunset is looking pretty bronzy. Fires, destruction, plague, pestilence. We're getting it all. I don't know how we can deny that these aren't curses coming down on our heads. Verse 24. JAHUAH shall make the rain of your land powder and dust. It shall come down from the heavens on you until you are destroyed. JAHUAH shall cause you to be stricken before your enemies, and you shall go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them. And you shall be a trembling to all the kingdoms of the earth. You will be in bondage. You'll be set into bondage. And your body shall be the food to all the birds of the air and to the beasts of the earth, and no man shall frighten them away. So you'll be lying dead in the streets and will have no loved ones there to protect your dead body. Oh my goodness. JAHUAH will strike you with the boils of Egypt, and with hemorrhoids, and with the scab, and with the itch of which you cannot be healed. No, thank you. JAHUAH shall strike you with madness and blindness. Look at what's running our streets right now. If that's not madness and blindness, I don't know what is. and astonishment of heart. Verse 29. And you shall grope at noonday, as the blind gropes in the darkness, and you shall not prosper in your ways. And you shall always be pressed down and spoiled forever, and no man shall save you. You shall become engaged to a wife, and another man shall lie with her. You shall build a house, and you shall not live in it. You shall plant a vineyard, and you shall not gather the grapes of it. You won't have the life that Yahuwah wants you to have. You won't have these blessings. Your sons and your daughters shall be given to another people. Your eyes shall look and fell for them all day long, and there shall be no power in your hand. Your children are being dragged off to slavery, to bondage, to this sexual slavery. That is slavery. That's worse than slavery. You shall father sons and daughters, but you shall not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity, into bondage. All your trees and the fruit of your land the locust shall possess. Verse 43, the stranger within you shall get up above you very high, and you shall come down very low. So you'll be ruled over with hostility by foreigners. And all these curses shall come on you and shall pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed. Because, why? Because you did not listen to the voice of Yahuwah your Eloah to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded you. And they shall be on you for a sign. These curses will be a sign. A mark will be evidence. And for a wonder, a token or omen, and on your seed forever. So you will be marked, and people will look upon this mark in wonderment, and the mark will be on your seed forever. Would this describe a generational curse? How did the past generations affect us, and how do we affect future generations? Diabetes, heart issues, health problems that seem to plague my family for generations. I asked Yahuwah, why do families seem to have similar patterns, illnesses, addictions, and so on? And what can I do to break that cycle for myself and future generations? Generational curses are the destructive ideas, sins, or thought patterns practiced in the past, transferred through the actions and spirit of one or more persons. These influences become embedded in the mind and spirit of the receiver, turning into strongholds. These become strongholds in our lives and in our families. I mean, how many times do we hear people say, well, this runs in my family, or that runs in my family, or my family's done this forever, or this is how it's always been done. They manifest themselves in ongoing, unfruitful behaviors, attitudes, and conduct. This derails a person's ability to meet their purpose in Yahuwah. Many believe this principle also extends to demonic activity. For instance, if one of our ancestors practiced witchcraft or other occult practices, any spirit they talked to, used, or dealt with has the freedom to trouble us now. And that doesn't warm my heart very much, because my great-grandmother, my grandfather's grandmother, was a fortune teller. So the definition of generation in the word has nothing to do with the popular notion from the 60s as in generation gap, or as we might see it from one age to another, but rather in biblical Hebraic meaning, it means of who generated you or where you came from. Generation as in progeny. A more accurate characterization of a generational curse would be a family bondage. Ham was given the curse of servitude, of bondage for enjoying his father's nakedness, which had it been through surprise, would not have been thought immoral. I mean, if he had just walked in and like, oh my goodness, my father's naked, and ran out and turned away, then that would not have been an immoral act. But he went into his father's tent, where first he ought not to have entered, but he went on to look with pleasure and delight on his father's nakedness. Ham is represented by many writers as a wicked, immodest, and wasteful creature. The Hellenistic era writer Berosus makes Ham out to be a magician. And the ancient Iranian prophet Zoroaster writes that Ham was the public corrupter of mankind and says, he taught men to live as before the flood, to lie with mothers and sisters, daughters, males and brutes, and creatures of all sort. So incest, bestiality, whatever feels good, do it. That he actually did so himself, and therefore was cast out by his father Noah, and got the name Chem, to be hot, the infamous and immodest, and told his two brethren without. He went out of the tent after he had pleased himself with the sight, and in a wanton, ludicrous, and scoffing manner related what he had seen. What Noah's younger son did to him, besides looking on him, we are not told. Yet it was such as brought a curse on Canaan. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. So obviously it was more than just beholding and gazing, because Noah knew something happened to him personally. He was asleep through it all. So if something had happened to him personally after he became sober and woke up, something that gave him a clue that something had happened. And he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, blessed be JAHUAH Eloah of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. JAHUAH shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. The bondage that is passed from generation to generation is that of familiar spirits, familiar demons, which are under the control of their master, Hellel, also known as Ha-Satan. The word familiar derived from the Latin word familia, family, household, household of slaves. If we look further, we can find that familia is derived from the Latin word familius, denoting serviceable, serving, servile, slave, servant, attendant. So we are servants and slaves to the familiar spirits, to the familiar demons. Thus, a familiar spirit becomes an intimate member of the household that it enslaves. This is why many families are unaware that they are caught up in generational bondage, because it is so normal and natural to them. It's been a part of their family for generations. It's like I said, they say, you know, how many times do we hear that? Or do we say it ourselves? Oh, that's been in our family for generations. Diabetes runs in my family. The nature of those familiar spirits is that they do a lot of talking, whispering, mumbling, and murmuring in our ears about certain situations in our lives. It's almost as if they include their own commentary on the story of our lives. They desire to take control of us when we're young in order to shape our thinking under the grip of their strongholds. If we think it's normal behavior when we're young, we just develop it as we get older. Their sole purpose is to keep us out of Yahuah's light and in captivity of Hellel's darkness. Again, it's black and white. It's either you're on with Yahshua and Yahuah, or you're with Hallel. It's that simple. You're walking in the way, or you're not. Mark 9:17. And one of the crowd answered and said, Teacher, I have brought my son who has a dumb spirit to you. And whenever he seizes him, he dashes him, and he foams and gnashes his teeth and pines away. And I spoke to your disciples that they should cast him out, and they could not. And Yahshua answered him and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me. And they brought him to him. And he saw him, and the spirit immediately convulsed him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed and foamed. And he asked his father, How long ago has it been since this came to him? And the father answered, From childhood. The spirit has attacked from childhood. So these are the ways that familiar spirits display themselves. Multiple manifestations of the same kind of physical, circumstantial, or emotional problems in the family line, such as cases of suicide, cancer, depression, etc. These things run in family lines. It's a spirit, it's a demonic spirit that just goes from generation to generation. Misfortunes of the same kind that keep happening repeatedly. Multiple members practicing fornication. Continual financial problems. Continual lack of prosperity and repeated failures. Chronic and hereditary physical, mental illnesses or emotional problems. Premature death. I know a family whose line just seems to die early. The people in their family die early, like in their 50s and 60s, and some even in their 40s. This family just is like strife with these young deaths. And not always just the same, like not just disease. Some of them is just accident, but death is their curse, it seems. Chronic strife or arguments or problems with interpersonal relationships. How many people do we know that seem to strive in drama? That is a curse. That is a demonic spirit that feels familiar to them. They thrive in that drama, in that strife, and in arguing. Chronic torment, continual destruction or breaking of items. Lack of awareness or cognition, not able to think ahead or judge the moment. They just run head first into a situation and can't even think ahead. They can't even process it. They have no cognitive ability to process what's going to happen if they take this step. They just rush right in and let the chips fall where they may. And laziness, lack of concern for personal well-being. I see this a lot in young people where they aren't clean, they don't care, filthiness in the home and person, poor personal hygiene. These are demonic spirits. They like filth and dirtiness. The Ruach won't dwell where there's filthiness. The Ruach of Yahuwah will not dwell where there's uncleanness. And that's why these demonic spirits thrive in unclean places, in unclean situations. That's their hidey hole. That's where they love to thrive, because the Ruach of Yahuwah is not there. So they go and take up these homes and these people where the filthiness resides. Okay, so poor eating or sleeping habits in infants or children. Failure to thrive or sickliness in young infants. Inability to conceive children or multiple miscarriages. Deliverance, healing, or salvation are not received. Keep searching and searching, but then you run down one rabbit trail, run down another rabbit trail, and it's like, why do I bother? Nobody knows for sure. I'm not worthy. You have all these murmuring voices in your ear telling you why I cannot receive salvation. Those are demonic spirits. They don't want you to receive the salvation that is promised to you. Divorce could also be considered a familiar spirit, thus creating generational bondage. That was definitely a familiar spirit in my family. This is a curse, a generational bondage. People whose parents had multiple divorces, and then you have multiple divorces yourself. This is just a small list of instances in which you can determine if familiar spirits are present in your life. If something is chronic and repeated, one should pray for discernment from the Ruach HaKodesh to determine the manifestation of the spirit of bondage. Where is it coming from? Again, most do not realize the spiritual warfare going on all around and within them. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. The truth here seems to say we fight against spiritual evil, not against each other, although the evil spirit loves to confuse us to war against each other. Ha-Satan is trying to tear us apart and divide us because he knows we would have so much power together that his minions would not survive. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, the Apostle Paul lists various spiritual gifts. In verse 10, he speaks of discerning spirits. Discerning of spirits is a spiritual gift that enables a person to distinguish between the holy and unholy spirits and to detect the realm of the spirits and their activities through the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, whom bears witness with our spirit when something is or is not of JAHUAH. It implies the power of spiritual insight, the spiritual revelation of plans and purposes of the enemy and his forces. That's what the gift of discerning spirits is. The spiritual insight, the spiritual revelation of the plans and purposes of the enemy and his forces. Our adversary Hillel walks about as a roaring lion seeking people to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sensible and vigilant, because your adversary Hillel walks about like a roaring lion seeking someone he may devour. But JAHUAH has not left us helpless. He has empowered us to deal with Ha-Satan and his minion. The manifestation of discerning of spirits is more than just recognizing them or distinguishing between them, even though discerning or distinguishing are the most common ways the Greek is translated. The manifestation of discerning spirits involves more than just knowledge. It involves entering into battle with them and casting them out. The Greek word translated discerning, diakrisis, has several meanings. It can mean distinguishing or differentiation. It can also mean to quarrel. One of the definitions in the Liddell and Scott Greek lexicon is decision by battle, quarrel, or dispute. In the context of dealing with demons, discerning, diakrisis, is more than just mentally discerning and knowing. It has overtones of quarreling or fighting and involves our dealing with them via the power of JAHUAH through the Ruach HaKodesh. 1 John 4:1. Beloved, don't believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see if they are of Eloah, since many false prophets have gone out into the world. We must test all spirits. If you are feeling led to do something, but it does not align with Torah, our instructions, then that spirit is not of JAHUAH. If it's not in alignment with how we are told to act in the Torah, it is not of JAHUAH. That is not Yahuwah's Ruach. The manifestation of discerning of spirits is necessary if those in the body are going to deal effectively with spiritual realities of this fallen world. As with the manifestation of a message of knowledge and a message of wisdom, discerning of spirits is revelation from JAHUAH, not guesswork or a feeling. We must learn to discern the spirits. We can't just go with our gut. It has to be of the Ruach. Open doors to familiar spirits. With little to no resistance, Ha-Satan and his demonic forces have taken up residence and feel quite comfortable in households around the world. Most don't even know he has moved in. People have become so desensitized by his presence that they can't even tell the difference anymore between light and darkness and the shadows in between. My husband and I were just talking about that the other day. And we've become so desensitized as a nation, and how much television and the meds have brought the desensitizing into our homes. Little by little, like the frog in the boiling water, we don't even know we're being boiled to death by these curses, by these demonic spirits. We're being boiled to death by them and don't even know it, because we don't know how to discern them. We don't know how to see them. Little by little, you started to give the enemy a point of entry. Maybe it was the day you purchased a satellite system that gave you access to hundreds of channels. Then one night, you and your wife decide to purchase a pay-per-view adult movie. You know, to spice things up a bit. Thinking that, okay, one look won't hurt, and it might be kind of fun. Spice up our love life. Or so you thought. It soon led to other things. Or it might have came the day you picked up a ladies' magazine at the grocery store. The seductive images and tantalizing stories caught your attention. Things had been a little dull lately, even boring. You want a piece of what the world has. You need some excitement, and you got it. Things stirred inside you, but you did not know how to stop them. Instead, you stopped listening to the Ruach HaKodesh, stopped listening to JAHUAH. And sadly, I have seen this happen with a fellow believer. Oh, I loved her to death. But she was drawn in by these things of Hollywood and the media, and she wanted fame and fortune, and she wanted the world to fall at her feet. She was pulled in. Life is boring following JAHUAH, trying to stay in the covenant, and it's not an easy road to hoe. It really isn't. And for young people, it's why they need the support of their elders behind them. But it all started when she was young and she was a teenager, and she would look at these magazines and these movies and be swept up by them. Those stories make me sad. So that's why the children need strong headship. 1 Corinthians 10, starting with verse 5. But with many of them, JAHUAH was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. We don't want to lust after the world and the occult. Or maybe you feel influenced by a particular friend or an acquaintance to act a certain way. So you feel like you fit in, or to make them like you. And it's human nature, I think, to want to be liked. And some people are very influenced by their friends. And even though in their hearts they know I shouldn't be doing this, they have that peer pressure of wanting to be liked. James 4:4. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that the friendship of the world is enmity with JAHUAH? Therefore, whoever desires to be a friend of the world is the enemy of JAHUAH. And what did we say earlier about the enemies of JAHUAH? He said they hate him. It is those who hate him are his enemies. Like the many other things in your household, they had opened a door to the dark side that now could not easily be shut. Satan started with a foot in the door that step by step led to a stronghold. The enemy had set up camp, and getting rid of the enemy will mean an all-out war. Today, Satan and his demonic forces are here, still knocking, still looking for a way in. He has found it via cable, satellite, movies, video games, magazines, books, children's toys. I just watched a video on the LOL toys, and when you dip those little LOL dolls in ice cold water, and they have on these outfits that appear that are S&M outfits. Satanic, sexual, on little dolls for little girls. And we don't realize we're bringing these into our children to play with. What are we influencing them with? And certain people. Watch who you bring into your homes. They influence our children. They influence our households. They bring their familiars with them. And clothing. I don't even want to get started on the clothing that I see girls wear today. And boys. But mostly the girls. These are where the familiar come through these doors, these open doors that we ourselves allow them in through. The door has been left ajar, and Satan has just walked into the homes of millions. Another way familiar spirits get a foothold are disobedience to Yahuwah's word, cursing and rebellion against Yahuwah. I feel like I have some people that I know that if I say, "Thus saith Yahuwah," they're going to do just the exact opposite because Yahuwah, or maybe it's because it came out of my mouth, I don't know, but they do the exact opposite, just in rebellion against Yahuwah's word. It drives me crazy. But I know personally people who I feel like that's what they do. Just because I say, "Thus saith Yahweh," well, I ain't doing that, then. Compromising the doctrines of the Messiah, twist and turn the scriptures to fit their agenda, or what my husband likes to call one-verse Charlies. They take one verse, run with it. They don't care what the context of the rest of the verses are around them. They're going to twist and turn that one verse, the one-verse Charlies. Involvement in the occult sciences, such as witchcraft or Satanism, or organizations using the occult sciences in an open or disguised manner, such as, yes, yoga, white magic, black witchcraft, Freemasonry, and other fraternal organizations having secret rituals found in witchcraft, or preaching a method of salvation of their own. Ouija boards, tarot or angel cards, magic, sorcery, astrology. There's a big difference between astrology and astronomy. Big difference. One is Ha-Satan's religion, astrology. The other one is our Creator's time clock, astronomy. Big difference. But see how Ha-Satan takes the holy things of Yahuwah, like astronomy, and perverts them into astrology. Palm reading, numerology, divination through psychic channeling, New Age movement, and practices. These all cause a breach, an open door. Pagan religions, telepathy, clairvoyance, seances, defiling your body with tattoos, piercings, cuttings, etc. You're changing what Yahuwah had made perfect when you do these things to your body. Involvement in idolatry, pursuing sexual sins or perversions, pornography, self-inflicted negative words or those inflicted by others. How many times I hear people say, "I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that." Well, you're manifesting those things. When you say them, you're opening that spirit to enter you. We have to be wary of these demons. Suicide. Have you ever noticed that when one suicide happens in a community, it seems to run rampant? I see this all the time. And this is those demons running through your community with this suicidal thoughts, these suicidal spirits. Abuse, neglect can open doors. Pride and rebellion, dishonoring parents or those in authority. Being unforgiving, bitterness, resentment, and even anger can open the doors for familiar spirits. In fact, many of those are familiar spirits, resentment and bitterness and anger. We can't let go of them. We're going to hold on to them forever. Manipulation and intimidation for the purpose of dominating over others. Defrauding of others. Willful cursing of others. Coveting cursed objects. And jealousy. Jealousy is a big one. Jealousy is a huge open door for many, many spirits to come through. But this is just a small list of potential openings. I'm sure you can think of many others. So don't let Satan pull off a surprise attack. Don't let him catch you off guard by allowing the familiar spirits to lure you into the comfortable. That's why they're called familiar. Don't let the familiar spirit fool you with the appearance of normalcy. Don't let Ha-Satan take adverse possession of your life and home. James 3, starting with verse 13. Who is wise and knowing among you? Let him show his works by his good conduct and meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and strife in your hearts, do not glory and lie against the truth. This is not the wisdom coming down from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envy and strife are, there is confusion and every foul deed, every foul spirit. If you have involved yourself in any sin in which opened any doors into your own life to familiar, malicious spirits, it is imperative that you clear up any legal grounds, any strongholds that you gave the enemy to place you in bondage. One of the most significant pieces to effectively destroy the power of generational influence is to walk with discipline. Ephesians 6:13. Therefore, take to yourself the whole armor of JAHUAH, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all to stand. The discipline is partly done by your mind being washed by reading, meditating, and studying Scripture. Keeping yourself in Yahuwah's Word. Ephesians 5:26. That he might sanctify and cleanse in the washing of water by the Word. We're washed, we're cleansed with the Word, and in walking in the Word brings us healing, cleansing, and blessings. Why would we not want that? Why are the rebellious ones the ones that are lifted up as almost as heroes or idolized? It's always the bad boys of the movie, or I don't understand. I don't understand why people don't want these blessings, why they don't want this shalom peace in their life, why they feel they have to have strife in their lives. You must understand that you will need Yahuwah's heavenly wisdom to fight this kind of battle. It cannot be won simply by your logic from daily experiences. We can't do it on our own. Our flesh is weak. Before you can fix it, you have to face it. We have all seen a family where the father has a problem with uncontrollable anger, and then his son seems to have been handed that same anger, and the grandfather had the same problem. I know I've seen that in a lot of families. The anger goes down through the men. Or have you noticed that not only do you suffer from something such as persistent irrational fears or depression, but your mother and father also suffered from it as well? What is the reason Yahuwah would punish the future generations with the sins of their fathers? Because of Yahuwah's bitter hatred for sin. He knows that one of the most prized possessions you have is your children. Therefore, it makes sin a lot harder to commit when you realize that you are not the only one that is being punished for it, but also your children and grandchildren are going to pay the price for your foolishness. This is why it is so vitally important that parents have their act together with Yahuwah. Not only will you be drawing demons to yourself if you engage and cross over into these forbidden areas, but you will also be putting your own children at terrible risk with these same demons once they have moved into your house and become intimate with your household. While we strive not to create new generational bondages for our children, we must still face and deal with our own bondage that came down through our parents. It is easy to lay blame for all of our problems on our parents, thinking if only they had taught us better, given us a better diet, had functional relationships, been around when we needed them emotionally, physically, etc. But not willing to forgive them is an absolute open door to generational bondage and all spiritual attacks. Remember, it's not people with whom we do battle, but evil spiritual forces which had the same influence on our parents and grandparents as they do on us today. One should love and honor one's parents. Exodus 20:12. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long upon the land which JAHUAH your Eloah gives you. This includes forgiveness for wrongdoing, because it is stated in 1 Peter 4:8, love covers a multitude of sins. And JAHUAH himself will forgive and shower great blessings upon those who themselves are able to forgive, to show love to others and to him, and to be effective in breaking generational bondage. Exodus 20, verse 6. And showing mercy to the thousands of those that love me and keep my covenant commands. Not forgiving is a serious sin that blocks the forgiveness of your own sins, which create ample legal grounds for the enemy in your life. Matthew 6:15. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. The cares, negative influences, trials, and hardships of this life penetrate the depths of our heart and soul, sometimes taking us down dark paths. Because of these things, we are either unable or unwilling to look to JAHUAH, who is the author and finisher of our faith. He is hesitant to commune with us because he will not break down the door of our spirit. He will only knock, saying that he is there and willing to come in if we open it. Revelation 3:20. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in to him and will dine with him and he with me. 1 John 4, verse 6. We are of JAHUAH. He who knows JAHUAH hear us. The one who is not of JAHUAH does not hear us. From this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Revelation 12:10. And I heard a great voice saying in heaven, now has come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our Eloah, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers is cast down, who accused them before our Eloah day and night. Hallel is the accuser of the brothers, and he accuses them before JAHUAH day and night. This is a full-time ministry that Satan is engaged in. And in this ministry, he has many co-workers, both among his evil spirits as well as among men. One common tactic of the enemy is the accusing spirit. The sad fact is that there are many who are co-workers with Hallel in the ministry of accusation. The accusations, the finger pointing, the name calling, those are all spirits of the accuser trying to cause division. Satan transmitted his nature to Adam as soon as Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden. We see proof of this in the fact that when JAHUAH came to Adam and asked him whether he had eaten the forbidden fruit, the very first thing Adam did was point his finger at Havah and say, "She was the one who gave me the fruit to eat." Genesis 3:12. And the man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me." So he's actually kind of pointing the finger at JAHUAH. You gave her to me, and then her, and she gave it to me of the tree, and I ate. You mean you gave me this woman, and then she did this, and I ate it. And so it's both your faults. That pose of Adam's with his forefinger pointed at a fellow human being is a familiar one found among all his children as well. From early childhood, we all develop the habit of blaming and accusing others. As we grow older, this blaming, accusing spirit becomes more clever, more subtle, and more evil in its manifestations. The accusing spirit works hand in hand with the family of generational spirits and strongholds. The accusing spirit will manifest in a variety of ways. It can accuse a person directly, it can cause them to accuse others around them, or it can accuse JAHUAH in a person's mind. Kind of like Adam, who was pointing at JAHUAH for giving him the woman who made him sin to begin with. Anytime the enemy brings up your past failures, that is the work of an accusing spirit. Now, I can't speak for everybody in this world, but the majority of us have a past. And in the past, we've done things that we're not proud of. That's part of growing. That's part of the human nature, the human experience, right? We make bad choices, we've made bad decisions, and we've done bad things. I know I have a lot to answer for on Judgment Day. But as humans, I would hope that most of us would strive, especially believers, strive to be a better person. And we let go of those past failures and learn from them and move on and grow. But there's always those who want to point out your past mistakes so that they feel better about themselves. So anytime an enemy brings up your past failures, that is the works of an accusing spirit. This spirit feeds on past mistakes in order to justify how that person is supposedly a failure. Well, no one's perfect. No one is perfect. But for those that have the accusing spirit behind them, they're trying to keep that Ruach HaKodesh of JAHUAH from entering them. And yet, when they are walking in the covenant, the Creator washes away those failures and casts them into the depths of the sea. To stop trusting JAHUAH's mercy and grace for our salvation and justification is exactly what the accusing spirit wants to do. Job, again, is a good example of what the demonic kingdom can do in a person's life. He had an almost endless list of calamities take place in his life due to an unclean spirit. Job greatly feared such calamities coming upon him. And he feared for his family too. Job made it a habit of offering up sacrifices to cover his children because he was in such great fear of their actions, of their celebrating their birthdays, and they would come together and they had these big celebrations of and celebrating their birthdays. And that is not what we're told to do. We're not to celebrate ourselves. We're not to lift ourselves up. And in celebrating our birthdays, that's a way of lifting ourselves up. And we're not to do that. And Job was greatly distraught by his children doing this. And he'd offer sacrifices because he was fearful and he was afraid. And it says here, for the things which I greatly feared has come upon me, and that which I was afraid has come to me. Job did not trust JAHUAH to protect him in those areas. This is why JAHUAH allowed Hallel to enter into his life and play havoc on everything he owned, including his own body. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he shall not depart from it. You probably know people whose children act, think, and respond nearly identical to them. That can be good or bad, depending on the type of actions. The little mini-me's running around. In homes where there is alcoholism, for example, a culture of codependency and despair often develops. Because of the shame and embarrassment surrounding this addiction, it becomes a family secret. The children from such a family often grow up with many difficulties. The idea of what a truly functional home looks like is not developed in their minds. This is because of the warped view of family developed from their experiences. If we are honest with ourselves, most of us have had some type of family bondage, and it's been going on for more than one generation. The big deal is people keeping secrets in families, especially in circumstances of sexual and satanic abuse or homosexuality. Keeping secrets is the same as lying. As we lie to ourselves and the world by keeping the secret in the dark, thus perpetuating the evil to the next generation. John 8:44. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and has never stood for truth, since there is no truth in him. Whenever he tells a lie, he speaks in character, because he is a liar and the father of lies. Hallel and his demons are not confined to the bottomless pit at this time. And until that happens, they are still free to roam in the air. Remember, he's the prince of the air, seeking those who they're going to try to devour next. We don't want to be generated from Ha-Satan. In order to break those generated bonds, we must expose the darkness to the light. Whether it is from a generational bondage or bondage we are creating for future generations, hiding sin gives demonic spirits a legal stronghold in our families and in our lives. We don't keep the secrets. John 3:20. For everyone who does evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. Mark 4:22. For there is nothing hidden which shall not be revealed, nor became covered, but that it might come to the light. And Jeremiah 6:17. For mine eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. Thus saith JAHUAH. JAHUAH is unchanging. What caused him to remove his presence from the first man and woman in the garden still causes him to depart from our lives today. He will not cleanse our lives, physical property, homes, and possessions until the dwelling place of our mind is free from defilement. The great lie is that you can live as you want and JAHUAH will always provide protection because he knows my heart. He knows my heart is good. Yeah, I might have just lied to my wife, but my heart is good. 1 John 1:5. And this is the message which we had heard from him and declare to you, that JAHUAH is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. We cannot walk in darkness and say we fellowship with the light. It's impossible. If you hide some of your sins, then you will not be completely free from curses, and your life will not be fruitful because Satan can easily manipulate you. Isaiah 49:9. You may say to the prisoners, to the yoked, go out to those who are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pasture shall be in all the high places. So in other words, what we're being told is to say to the spirits that are yoked to you in darkness, go out, show yourselves to the light. Go to the barren places to feed. Leave me alone. Be brave enough to speak out about the past. Face what has happened or admit to the sin that is currently placing you into bondage. Be brave enough to step out of the situation. If you are going to break a curse, it might mean that you are not able to go to certain places or hang out with particular friends or family members anymore. Neither those who continue to sin or those who hide the sin. Family systems can be very strong, so pulling away to save yourself may be very painful, but it may be your only way out. It may be a matter of your spiritual life or death. 2 Corinthians 6:14. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship does righteousness have in lawlessness? And what partnership does light have with darkness? Don't yoke yourself to someone who is an unbeliever. If your desire is to live a spiritual life, to grow in JAHUAH's word, and to receive the blessings, by yoking yourself to them, you're constantly being drugged out of the light you're seeking and back into their darkness. Perhaps it is a matter of facing deep-seated feelings about past events, even if we are not outwardly aware that these events have caused a breach. By saying the words, it brings those demons into the light, cutting off connection to them. 1 Samuel 16:14. But the spirit of JAHUAH departed, and the evil spirit from JAHUAH troubled him. Demons can affect a lot of areas in a person's life. They love to cause fear, depression, and torment through our thoughts, the mind. The word also uses the term vexed with a devil, which means to be tormented, harassed, or troubled by an evil spirit. It is not uncommon for a person with a demon to testify to racing thoughts that are completely against their will. You see somebody, with mental illnesses walking down the street, talking to themselves, talking to their familiars. 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of the darkness and into his marvelous light. The chosen generation, a royal priesthood. Yahuwah wants us to be his priests. That's what he wanted when he pulled the Israelites out of Egypt. He wanted a nation of priests. He still does today. The priesthood's not dead. We are his priests, those that are his disciples and speak and live his word. That is his priesthood. HaMashiach, Yahshua, who will return as our high priest. So if something is not done to break the bad behavioral patterns started in previous generations, the iniquities will continue to the following future generations. Can we face Yahuwah faithfully, knowing that we have not done nearly enough to promote change in ourselves and those around us? Do we do enough to break these accursed things off from our lives and the lives of those we love? You have to make a concerted effort to do things differently than the patterns you have seen and adopted. Dealing with these issues is often so difficult and emotionally painful that people would just rather avoid them. And it is painful. It is hard to deal with some of these issues, especially when you've been hurt. It's a rough thing, but that's what we have to do to close the door to those spirits. And then we're faced with not only our own personal family issues and generational curses, but even cultures and ethnic groups have these cultural curses. Cultural bondages are those influences that negatively affect us from within the nationalities of our present place of dwelling, or from the nationalities of our forebearers. An unusual example of a cultural bondage is found in Judges 12:5-6. And the Gileadites took the fords of the Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it happened that when one of those Ephraimites who had escaped said, "Let me go over," the men of Gilead said to him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" And he said, "No." Here, after dispute with the tribe of Ephraim, some men from Gilead took control of a strategic river crossing. Whoever came to that crossing was commanded to pronounce the word Shilobeth. The men of Ephraim obviously had some sort of impediment that made them unable to pronounce the word correctly. According to Scripture, they said Sibboleth instead of Shibboleth. As a result, they were easily identified and slaughtered, 42,000 of them. All cultures have their own set of curses that are indicative to that culture, whether it is social, economic, or health bondages. People of Irish ancestry are much more likely than any other global group to suffer from a potentially fatal disorder called hemochromatosis. The condition means having too much iron in the blood. And actually, my great-grandfather had that condition. It is estimated that 1 in 5 Irish people carry this gene, and 1 in 86 will go on to develop this hemochromatosis. It is associated with both men and women aged more than 40. Researchers at the Mater Hospital's liver unit in Dublin first identified the strong link between the Celtic gene and the inherited disorder. Nobody is sure about why or when the Celtic gene suddenly developed or mutated. But researchers at the hospital believed it happened 50 generations ago, about 900 AD. And the Black American labors under tremendous curses and afflictions. Most Black Americans are an ethnic group born from the seed of slavery. Instead of blessings, Black America is under a curse of plagues and vexations, resulting in calamities overtaking them. Blessing and curses rests upon families, upon the generations, upon the communities, upon the culture, and even the entire nations. An apparent consequence of the history of enslavement, bondage, and oppression is twofold. The belief of many Black Americans that they will never be free, and the opportunity that this belief provides for Hillel, for Ha-Satan, to establish stronghold over this group of people. Among legally married persons, regardless of geographic region in the U.S., Blacks are at the greatest risk. Young Black males are dying untimely death. It's a war zone of mass destruction. It is a perpetuated cycle of poverty and crime in the Black community. It's sad. The prevalence of high blood pressure in Black Americans in the United States is the highest among the world. Black Americans have almost twice the risk of first ever strokes compared with Caucasian Americans. Among the leading cancers, prostate cancer in Black men is about 15 times higher than among white men, and 2.7 times higher than among Asian Pacific Islander men. In studies that compare individuals with similar levels of income and education, Black Americans have shorter life expectancies than any other racial group. Sadly, it is mostly Black American homes where the father is absent. The lack of parental involvement causes low self-esteem, lack of motivation to learn, apathy, and a lack of accountability among too many of the young people. They are growing up uncovered. They don't have the proper headship of a parent under JAHUAH. Without a father, they are unprotected and unnourished, left with feelings of abandonment, emptiness, and total rejection, which is a gateway for generational curses. Many present-day Black Americans do not know, understand, or accept their true origin, thus have only an incomplete, misperceived, or non-existent foundation to attempt to develop their healthy, dignified self-image. As a result, the Black American society suffers from high imprisonment rates, blatant disrespect for one another, calling one another by the N-word, degrading Black women, rampant drug addiction, poor or lacking education, and impoverished neighborhoods. In the spirit of change, confidence, and self-sufficiency, Black Americans must independently pursue all avenues necessary to shed light on its obscure past and impart this knowledge on a daily basis. The point is these generational curses are real. Each individual must shed light on this past, on this sin of slavery, and impart this knowledge on their children to break the curses. We must walk in the way of JAHUAH. Other curses that come from parents are fleshly practices, idolatry, pride, turning away from JAHUAH, and the desire to harm JAHUAH's anointed. People lash out at others that are trying to walk righteously. You don't want to walk in those ways. You have to come before JAHUAH and explain that to him. You don't have to explain that to me. And so to have a desire to harm JAHUAH's anointed is a spirit against wanting to walk in JAHUAH's ways. Today we are beholding the fruit of sin, and it seems that whatever we wanted to happen is operating in reverse. Be assured, no matter how small the sin, it will be exposed when JAHUAH reveals it in his own time. Many pastors and leaders are fully aware of the sins and demonic strongholds with which they are living. Spiritual darkness is encountered everywhere. There is a dire need for leaders to see clearly in the Spirit. There is too much immorality in the churches, namely greed, pedophilia, homosexuality, lesbianism, adultery, and fornication. Immorality, unethical practices, and evil have spread in the church. All churches, black, white, yellow, red, blue, it don't matter. This evil has spread. The poverty and slavery mentality needs to be transformed, and strongholds of hopelessness and despair destroyed. Self-hatred and hatred for others needs to diminish. I can't help that I was born white and female, just as my black brothers cannot do anything about their skin color or their gender. I mean, we are who we are, and we're all JAHUAH's children. We need to stop hating each other for our differences and start clinging to our love for our Creator. We must be brothers in arms, regardless of our skin color. We must be brothers in arms in the ways of JAHUAH. Hillel tends to use anger, confusion, rage, disappointment, and a lack of focus on JAHUAH as a primary means to get a foothold in your life. He recognizes that children who come from dysfunctional families often develop dysfunctional tendencies. To fight the war on bondage, all children must be raised up and trained in JAHUAH's ways. There's no other way to release this bondage, even from birth. But that is just the beginning. Once the Ruach HaKodesh is living within them, they can and must learn how to recognize JAHUAH's convictions, his guidance, his wisdom, and his voice within them, leading them into all truth and righteousness. This is the greatest channel of grace that we can open up for our children, the ability to hear and the desire to obey the voice of JAHUAH within our own hearts. It's that desire that we must teach them, not to desire the lusts of the world, the lusts of the flesh, but to desire and obey the voice of our Creator. It must be put in their hearts. Even if your children are grown, you walking in obedience is a positive influence for future generations. Even if you've messed up and your children have followed in your walk and they're messing up and now you're walking straight, you're walking in JAHUAH's ways, that will influence future generations. Your children may not get it right away, and they still might be walking in those generational curses, but you can influence them in the way you act. And just your walk will influence your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. This I know as a fact because I've lived it. If we will cultivate this ability, if we will train our children and grandchildren to recognize the Ruach HaKodesh's presence and power within them, He who began a good work in them will carry it on to completion. Isaiah 8:18. Here am I and the children whom JAHUAH have given me. We are for signs and wonders. We must be a conqueror in the place that JAHUAH has called us. Commit to breaking the bondage that Hallel has placed us under. When you are in JAHUAH's will, you are in the place which he has put you within the body. You will have a strong impact on the people and the community around you, thus not allowing them to draw you into the curse. You will be the light that shines brightly in the darkness. Commit today to take back the land. 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and will heal their land. As we saw with Job, JAHUAH allowed Hallel to place an unclean spirit on him. If Job was afflicted for simply not trusting JAHUAH in all areas of his life, the affliction placed on our nation will be astounding. And this is the end of our study on generational curses. I hope this has really hit home for you in the understanding on how we need to heal our nation and remove these generational curses, starting with ourselves and our families. It starts with ourselves and spreads to our families, to our communities, and then to our nation and the world. And until we meet again, I'm going to wish you shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.